Good morning. I am Bo Tiwari, and thank you for joining us here on Freedom Monday. Every Monday we are here at 10 a.m. and we talk with you for about 1 hour, and we usually have a distinguished guest to talk about issues that matter to you and to me and to everybody else. So we thank you for joining us. I want to welcome you again to Freedom Monday. This is Monday, the 29th of January, 2024. We are moving through the year with 1 month going fast. We are live on Synergy TV. We are on Caribbean Showtime Television in Canada. And I want to share with you now the quote of the day with the kind compliments of Fab India Expo. And let me read the quote. Got it? Cleverness is a gift. Kindness is a choice. Something to remember. Cleverness is a gift. Kindness is a choice. In other words, just because you're smart, don't forget to be kind. It's a very nice quote. So thank you very much, Fab India Expo, and let's see the ad now.
On us.
I see they opening one of these big expos on Mid-Center Mall.
Oh, really?
The same thing with the big tent.
Yeah.
And they have the entrance on the highway itself.
Oh. Okay.
Welcome back. I am Bo Tiwari. This is Freedom Monday. And I want to introduce you to my guest. He is Dr. Justin Ram. If you live anywhere in the Caribbean, you may know that name because he used to be at the CDB, and he is an economist that is well known across the region. He now has his own consultancy firm, and he leads that, and it's called Justin Ram Advisory Services. And of course, he is an economist. And Justin has not only worked in the Caribbean, he's worked all over the world too. At one time when the former Prime Minister of Britain was mayor of London, you were actually his advisor or chief economist, were you?
Yeah, one of the lead economists at the time.
At the time, yes.
Yeah.
So he served in London. He's very familiar with the Commonwealth, very familiar with small states issues, very familiar with economic issues that have to do with the Caribbean. We have been on occasion at various international fora in which we have engaged various issues having to do with the region and so on. And we're very, very happy. Justin, welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you for coming on my show.
Thank you, Bo.
This is Freedom Monday. Now, we have a big topic for you. We're going to divide it into 3 parts. The first part is on Forex, foreign exchange. The second part is on sea transportation, that is to say ocean transportation, and especially as it relates to the Caribbean. You know, we have a problem. LIAT is now going to be withdrawn, and they're going to form a new company. We have CAL that serves the Caribbean, but not as intensely as perhaps it should. And we've always had a problem of transportation, not just of people, but of goods in the region. So I want to talk about that. And we want to talk about small Caribbean economies, because this Forex issue and this issue of the movement of goods and people and the issue of integration and market economy in the region really is quite fundamental to the idea of being small economies in a very, very big world that is actually transforming because of the geopolitics, the economics, the technology, etc. So you want to talk to Justin this morning, and let's talk about some of those things. Let's talk about the Forex in Trinidad and Tobago first.
Sure.
Recently, usually I'm involved in those sessions with the Trade and Development Unit, but on Friday night when they had it, I could not have been involved because I was committed to something else, but I did listen to the session afterwards, and I heard Dr. Farrell, who used to be Deputy Governor of the Central Bank.
All right.
I heard Professor Roger Hussein, who heads the Trade and Development Unit, and they were talking about the Forex situation.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Farrell was quoted in a headline yesterday saying that there is no foreign exchange crisis in Trinidad and Tobago, something that the Minister of Finance said a little while ago.
Right.
But there is a foreign exchange crunch,
Sure.
and it is something that we need to be concerned about. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you, from your perspective, you see the foreign exchange challenge in Trinidad and Tobago.
Sure, thanks, Bo. And it's a very big topic. I have to agree that there is really no immediate foreign exchange crisis in Trinidad and Tobago because we do have sufficient amount of foreign exchange reserves to meet the demands of the population. And when I say that, what I'm speaking about is really the amount of months of import cover that you have.
Yeah.
It's been declining, yes, so the trend is not good, but we're not in a crisis position as yet because...
Yeah. Well, isn't the key thing as yet, though? Because you're dealing with a balance of trade situation that is not good.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with a deficit situation that's not so hot.
Right.
You're dealing with a price of oil for the budget, which is about $57 billion in 2023-24, of over $90 for the oil and $6 for the natural gas, none of which has been attained in the last year. So, I mean, I think the problem might well be that there is no crisis now. But if we continue with this trade deficit, if we continue with this Forex revenue and earnings deficit, if we continue with the budget deficit and the low price and low production, and we don't do anything else, because I think on that same session, Roger Hussein was saying that we need to do three things. Bring in tourists, get remittances, and begin the process of non-energy diversification. We're going to have a problem. So talk about that, because I know you understand this very well. You understand both sides. One, there is no crisis now.
Right.
But two, there is going to be a crisis if we continue as we're doing.
Certainly. So I think we have to balance the conversation about, okay, where we are currently, the amount of foreign exchange reserves that we have based on what our current demands are, and then you look at the trends that have been happening in Trinidad and Tobago's economy since, I would say, maybe about a decade, 15 years ago. The trends have been there. So I mean, if you look back at the amounts of import cover that we had, let's say in 2013, it was probably close to 13 months.
Yeah, we had in 2013, 14, early 14.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now it's down to maybe just under 8. The trend isn't good.
Yes.
But you're still at a point where you're not at a crisis as yet. So, for example, I live in Barbados now, and we got to a point where we had just about 3 weeks of import cover.
Yes.
Before this Mia Mottley government came into power in 2018.
Yes.
That is a crisis situation where you are dealing with a situation where you may not have enough money to buy the things that people
the goods
need
that
to
you need for the next month.
Exactly. So that's when you get to a crisis point. Now, of course, you don't want to get there. You need to do things to avoid you getting to that crisis situation. And I think that's what Dr. Roger Hussein, or I should say Professor Roger Hussein, is trying to hint at in his contribution on Friday.
Yeah.
Now, I also want to say to you that this whole discussion about foreign exchange, we also need to turn it on its head.
Okay.
Because I also think I've come to this point, and I've come to realize that, and if I dare say this, that having local currencies for a small open economy, for me, just doesn't make sense anymore.
Okay.
One of the reasons here The crisis that we currently have in Trinidad and Tobago is one of distribution.
Okay.
It's a distribution of the foreign exchange where we have a crisis. So you certainly have the individual who might want to go to the bank to purchase, let's say, $2,000 US, but the bank is telling them that I can only give you $200 today. That's a crisis of distribution.
Yes.
What's happening there is that the banks, because of the way that they are receiving foreign exchange from the central bank, and the central bank in turn is also taking deposits based on, from oil companies that are paying taxes to the government, because those oil companies are paying taxes in US dollars. The central bank also has a problem in how they are distributing, leading to this crunch that we're currently having. Now, think about it, Bo. If we did not have that Trinidad and Tobago dollar and everybody had access to US dollars, and this is the point I'd like to make here, is that the crisis for me is the unequal distribution of a very important asset, which is the US dollar.
US dollar. Yeah.
And all of us don't have easy access to that. It all depends on your relationship with your bank, how much money you are accustomed exchanging from month to month. You will become a priority. But for the individual that goes into the bank today and is not really accustomed purchasing US dollars all the time, they cannot get access. And that's a really bad thing in my mind, because when we say that you have a TT dollar in your pocket, that should really allow you to buy any good and service across the world, not only in Trinidad and Tobago. And so, in my point of view, I think we need to, and not only in Trinidad and Tobago, because I also work in Turks and Caicos, and I see how this has worked.
Yeah.
We need to move away from this notion of having this local currency. The ideal for me is for us to start using the US dollar as the currency of exchange, even within the local borders, because then that makes it a lot more easy in terms of distribution. Everybody then has access to all goods and services around the world, not only those who have a good relationship with their bank.
Okay. Now, I can see how adopting the US dollar as our currency can make a difference in terms of the banking sector, in terms of loans, the price of loans, the price of interest rates, and so on. But what bothers me is, I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to produce so that your country can earn and grow. You still have to export if you are going to have foreign currency. You still have to import in foreign currency. And you still have to pay wages which are in local currency, and therefore affects the purchasing power when things are determined by the US dollar. How are these things going to be resolved, though? And after you answer, I just want to point you to some things that are happening elsewhere. We can talk about Panama, where the US dollar is on parity with the Panamanian dollar. You talked about Turks and Caicos Islands, where they live basically on tourism, and therefore the US dollar flows in. In Argentina, the new president has just said that he will dollarize that particular economy. So we'll come to those. But let's deal with this particular problem.
Yeah.
You are producing in local dollars. You are not producing at a high level of productivity. You are paying in local dollars. And you have to, that determines your purchasing power. If you dollarize, what does that do to the rest of the economy that is not export driven?
Right. It's a really, really good question. And let me just say to you that when you have a local currency, it actually is an impediment to productivity improvement. Let me explain why I say this. Think about government expenditure now. We have been running deficits in Trinidad and Tobago for maybe well over a decade. And we can continue to do that because we can finance those deficits using local currency loans. And that has been happening. Government has gone out there and perhaps borrowed some foreign loans from development banks. But let me just say this to you. What happens is that when you can do that and run those deficits over and over, is that you have a bloated government that becomes inefficient and eventually a drag on the economy. What that means is that because of the local currency, the government is not being prudent enough. Now, if, for example, a government knew that in order to borrow, it had to borrow in foreign currency, it would have to maintain a good fiscal position, perhaps run a surplus every year, because it would have to maintain a very good credit rating, because in order to borrow internationally, and at the best rate, you'd have to have a good credit rating, or else no one would want to lend to you. And so it brings that one fiscal discipline, and immediately it would have the incentive of having a much more productive public sector. At the moment, I think the public sector is a drag on us. Yes.
All right, let's stop at this point. We have to take a break now for the commercials, and we are going to be right back. This is Freedom Monday. I'm Bo Tiwari, and my guest is Dr. Justin Ram.
Looking for the best in educational supplies? Then come on down to Charon's Bookstore, the trusted name in everything back to school, from uniforms, textbooks, school accessories, stationery, and much more. Our dedicated team is committed in providing the highest quality in customer service. Visit us at number 53 Eastern Main Road, Tunapuna, Trin City Mall, Trin City, number 24 Eastern Main Road, San Juan, and number 10 Diego Martin, 4 Roads, Diego Martin. Call us at 235-5811.
Are you ready to own your own home? But worried about time, money, and construction? We handle it all. With Docs, you can sleep in your dream. Make a down payment of $100K or $150K and we'll build a 2 or 3 bedroom home on your unused land. A home is an investment into your future, so let's help you invest wise, invest well. Payment plans available. We're only a call away.
Val Park Chinese Restaurant. Experience the flavors of authentic Chinese cuisine for a romantic night out or a family dinner. Our newly renovated cozy atmosphere and professional friendly service makes dining with us an unforgettable experience. We have a well-equipped conference room that caters for meetings and corporate events for up to 50 persons. Safe and secure parking. Val Park Chinese Restaurant. Open every day including Sundays and holidays. Book your table today. Give us a call 645-5474 662-4540.
Lifetime Solutions, manufacturer of metal roofing, panels, framing, guttering, and related products. Located lot number 26, Omera Industrial Estate in Arima. Give us a call 646-5813 for further information. Lifetime Solutions. Give us a call today.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Super quality supermarket. Best quality and great prices. Get your fresh fruits, vegetables and meats. It's a one-stop shop for the most affordable groceries, baby items, kitchen supplies, bathroom accessories, car care supplies, pet food, toys and lots more, all at Super Quality Supermarket. Wide aisles, fully air-conditioned and secured parking. 3 locations nationwide: Couva Car Park, Couva, 98 Endeavour Road, Chagonas, and 47 Tissue Drive, Trin City. Super Quality Supermarket.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. stay through the program. We're discussing an important thing, foreign exchange and other things. This is Freedom Monday, and we want to thank our sponsors, Doc's Engineering Works Limited. We want to thank Charon's Bookstore. We want to thank Lifetime Solutions and also Valpark Chinese Restaurant. We're talking about foreign exchange, and we're going to move on soon to talk about shipping. But I think Justin wanted to get into some of the foreign exchange issues related to local production. So we're going to have Dr. Ram talk about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one of the things when you live in a small open economy, where you do not produce a lot of what is consumed here, it's really important that the entire workforce is aware of how important it is to export.
Yes.
Or to engage in activity that reduces your import bill. So net exports, therefore, becomes really important.
Critical, yeah.
I think that when you have the local currency as we have it now, it becomes this barrier. People don't have to think about that as often. When they're just spending a local currency, they're not thinking about when I spend a TT dollar, on average, Dr. Tawari, maybe about 80 cents of that is going on an import, you know.
Yes, of course.
A lot of it is going, and people are not putting those things together. So when you operate in an environment where either you are dollarized, I'm not saying that we have to dollarize, but what I would say is that if we don't want to dollarize and you still want to maintain the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, we should go back to some sort of fixed pegged relationship where it is totally, the amount of TT dollars in circulation is directly related to your foreign exchange reserves. So that every time you want to change your TT dollar, you can get that. At the moment, that is not necessarily the case and what's happening. And I think it should be a right for you to be able to have access to US dollars. Let me just put that there. However, let me get back to the other point. When you have either the US dollar or you have your local currency that is pegged and perhaps managed through a currency board and not a central bank, through a currency board situation, what then becomes really important for you is that you're driving productivity and you want to ensure that your economy is very competitive. Everyone is now aligned on that mission. The government, the population, the private sector. That is where we want to go. So like, for example, in Turks and Caicos, where I now spend 50% of my time, we don't even speak about foreign exchange reserves and all that. That's a non-issue.
Yeah, it's not an issue.
But everyone who's working understands how important it is for us to have a competitive environment so that people want to come, investors, tourists come, everybody is coming to spend their US dollars. Everybody is engaged in an activity associated with the generation of US dollars because your currency is telling you that that is what you need to be working towards. And so everyone in Turks and Caicos is fully aware that tourism is important, and so I need to ensure that that is protected. In Trinidad and Tobago, it may not be tourism, but tourism could be one of them, but it could also be manufacturing. I need to be able to be competitive so I can export. I need to ensure that my oil and gas industry is also competitive so that we can get foreign exchange earnings. We need to start changing the mindset so that everyone in Trinidad and Tobago is aware the importance of exporting or engaging in activities that reduces the import bill. And I think that the TT dollar, as it stands now, is a barrier to that mindset. And that is where I think that the real change has to happen, to put everybody on the same mission of competitive and export-driven economy.
All right, let's shift a little bit from Forex and matters related to Forex. We might come back to it. And look a little bit about transportation in the region, especially sea transportation. Recently, there have been two initiatives. One is by the government of Guyana, leading, I think, the government of Barbados playing a key role, and the government of Trinidad and Tobago being also an important partner in this initiative. And as I understand it, the thinking behind that is that they would establish a ferry service to improve maritime transportation capacity through solutions, and I found this kind of curious, which utilize existing shipping assets. So that was the thinking among the three governments,
Right.
and articulated by one of the prime ministers. Now, this is being backed by the CDB, who has established a technical working group to try and see how this might be possible, to do the feasibility, etc. And the second initiative is a private sector initiative. It's called Connect Caribbean. The spokesman for that has been Dr. Patrick Antoine, who has another role
Right.
in shipping and maritime affairs.
Yeah.
And that is being, it seems to me that the financial backing and the infrastructure kind of support is coming from Upturn Funds, which is Caribbean, New York-based venture capital company, Windward Ferries, Rams Logistics, which is a regional company based in Trinidad, JS Cruises and Tours, and Maritime Institute of Barbados, together with the Anthony Hinkson Consultancy. Now, talk about these two initiatives. Talk about the extent to which they are complementary or compatible or competitive with each other, and what this can do for the region.
Well, first of all, let me say I welcome these initiatives. I don't know which one is going to be more successful than the other, but at the moment it seems as if they're not going to be competing against each other, because the public initiative between Barbados, Trinidad and Guyana governments, I think they'll be using a Trinidad asset, to, in the first instance, service the route between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. That will not necessarily compete with the other private sector initiative, which is mainly going to be out of Barbados and servicing the Eastern Caribbean countries. Okay, so they're probably not going to be competing. Which of those is going to be successful? I'm not sure. Hopefully they've done the feasibility studies. However, I'll just say that we need this. We need this in the Caribbean, because for too long it's been very difficult for the producers in any of the islands, or we might, I don't know if we can call Guyana an island, but certainly a Caribbean country.
Well, certainly Caribbean countries.
Yes. It's been very difficult to move the quantity of goods that we produce here to other places. So, for example, there was a good friend of mine here in Trinidad, and her family were producing pineapples at a very good quality and wanted to export to Barbados. She had the market in Barbados, but the quantities that they could export, because we know we're still very small, it just didn't make sense for the size of containers that the existing shipping companies were providing.
Yes.
And so the cost was going to be too prohibitive, and that just fell flat. So what I'm hoping here with these ferry services is that we would be able to drive a small pickup truck or something onto that ferry, let's say from Guyana or Trinidad, and take that to Barbados. Now, here is where the rubber hits the road, because you can drive a vehicle from Trinidad onto a ferry and go to Tobago because you're still within the same economic zone, and the insurance would apply. That is not the case now. So there are a lot of regulatory changes
that would
need to be made before this becomes really, I guess feasible. So it's going to be easy to move people, certainly, but we can do that already. I think the real benefit will come if we are able to from moving goods, because at the moment we can't do that well. So I think that's what the governments will have to look at, and work very, very closely with the private sector, very closely with insurance companies, because you want to know, if I have insurance in Trinidad and I take my vehicle to Barbados, that then I'm going to be still covered.
Yes.
It's like what happens in the European Union, for example. You have to think about it as in the same economic space.
Yes.
And at the same time, when I get to Barbados, if I have left Trinidad, am I going to now have to still go through immigration and all that again? Or even customs checks? We need to think about putting in place the right customs and immigration procedures so that once I leave Trinidad and I go to Barbados or Guyana, it's as if I'm still in Trinidad, because you want to make it seamless. That's how it really operates in a proper goods and currency union, as it were. In the European Union, that's how it operates. Now, if, for example, if you were to go to Britain and you're trying to export goods because they have left the European Union, it is very difficult.
Very difficult.
And you don't want that. So there are a lot more changes that are going to be required if we're going to see the true benefits of this.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you when you come back whether a single market for CARICOM and a single economic zone are prerequisites to make this movement of goods and people through ships from island to island or from country to country feasible. But we talk about it when we come back. So we're going to take a break now. Yes. Your sponsors are Docks Engineering Works Limited, Charon's Bookstore, Lifetime Solutions, and Valpark Chinese Restaurant. We are going to hear a word from our sponsors now.
Looking for the best in educational supplies? Then come on down to Charon's Bookstore, the trusted name in everything back to school, from uniforms, textbooks, school accessories, stationery, and much more. Our dedicated team is committed in providing the highest quality in customer service. Visit us at number 53 Eastern Main Road, Tunapuna, Trin City Mall, Trin City, number 24 Eastern Main Road, San Juan, and number 10 Diego Martin, 4 Roads, Diego Martin. Call us at 235-5811.
Are you ready to own your own home? But worried about time, money, and construction? We handle it all. With Docs, you can sleep in your dream. Make a down payment of $100K or $150K and we'll build a 2 or 3 bedroom home on your unused land. A home is an investment into your future, so let's help you invest wise, invest well. Payment plans available. We're only a call away.
Valpark Chinese Restaurant. Experience the flavors of authentic Chinese cuisine for a romantic night out or a family dinner. Our newly renovated cozy atmosphere and professional friendly service makes dining with us an unforgettable experience. We have a well-equipped conference room that caters for meetings and corporate events for up to 50 persons. Safe and secure parking. Valpark Chinese Restaurant. Open every day including Sundays and holidays. Book your table today. Give us a call 645-5474 662-4540.
Lifetime Solutions, manufacturer of metal roofing, panels, framing, guttering, and related products. Located lot number 26, Omera Industrial Estate in Arima. Give us a call 646-5813 for further information. Lifetime Solutions. Give us a call today.
After huge success in Mokoya, La Romaine and South Park Mall, for the first time ever, Indian Style Expo will be at the air-conditioned Dome at Mid-Center Mall from January 6th. Over 60 merchants. Get all that you need: garments, furniture, handicraft, footwear, jewelry, and so much more. For the first time ever in Trinidad, be sure to check out our $20 food court. Yes, you heard right, but that's not all. When you spend over $200, you also get a free meal. Bring your kids to the arcade while you shop. The Indian Style Expo at the air-conditioned Dome, Mid-Center Mall, starting on January 6th from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily, including weekends and holidays.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We appreciate that, okay? And thank you, our sponsors, for supporting this program. This is Freedom Monday, and I am Bo Tiwari, and my guest is Dr. Justin Ram, economist And we talked first of all about foreign exchange, and then we shifted to the notion of sea transportation for the Caribbean to connect the region in terms of people and goods. But we raised the question at the end of the last session as to whether you need a single market and economy and what you called a common economic space in order for this thing to work sensibly, so that you don't end up doing something in which the bureaucratic systems make it impossible to achieve. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I think yes. For this to work well,
you have to have a single market.
You have to have a single market. You can attempt to do it without it, but you're still going to have that friction in trade. And so therefore you're not going to benefit fully from it. And when I say single market and economy, I really mean that it's not just the freedom of those goods to move, but the freedom of people to move.
Yes.
Free trade without the movement of people will always lead to problems. And we have seen that in most places. So for example, the United States of America is an entirely free trade and singular economy made up of different states. We know that.
Yeah.
The European Union have done that in the same way. And if you think about it, they've gone a step further, where the European Union has said, you know what, we're going to follow the United States just as they have done and have a single currency.
Yeah.
So in effect, Greece, Germany, Italy, France, if you think about it, Dr. Tawari, they have actually dollarized.
Yeah.
They have actually dollarized to use one currency.
Well, they've created the euro.
Right.
All right, which has some relationship to the US dollar and other large currencies. Yeah. But even, I want to hold that question because I didn't want to disrupt your thought process there. And yes, but you're right. What you are saying is, look, you need a single currency, you need a single market, you need a single economic space, and you need a single space in which trade, investment, development can happen with a kind of ease and harmony in the region.
Yes.
You know, I mean, all of us know a little bit of our history, especially the colonial history. You know, one of the things about, I was at a function last night in which I met some people from Ghana, and I was just thinking that, you know, when Kwame Nkrumah was they became the first premier and then prime minister of Ghana, you know, in the early colonial days, when he was fighting the British, he said, you know, seek ye first the political kingdom.
Right.
And in a fundamental way, when the Caribbean was looking to the Federation, you know, you might say that they were thinking, seek ye first the political kingdom. Let's found this political entity called, you know, the Caribbean region, you know, CARICOM. Well, CARICOM came after, but the Federation of the West Indies. But really, you really have to solve the economic and financial problems first. And then you could talk about politics, because you have to let the local politics, which is what it becomes in that case, proceed and operate at that level.
Yes.
But you really need to solve the problem. How do you move money? How do you move people? How do you move goods?
Yes.
How do you make transactions happen? How do you make investment happen?
Yes, yes.
You know, you have to do those things first. And in a way we misunderstood. It's not the political kingdom that you have to conquer first. It's the economic kingdom.
It's the economics, because if people don't feel happy in a situation, and normally that happiness is a direct correlation with what's going on in their pocket.
Yeah.
They will not want this to happen.
Yeah.
And so when we speak about needing to have this,
who will think of governance if they can't deal with food?
Exactly.
It's as simple as
that. Simple as that. That is a very, very basic thing. And for us in the Caribbean, and that includes Trinidad and Tobago, where we have, I would always say we have minuscule economies in relation to the rest of the world.
Yes, of course.
We have 1.4 million people. Jamaica probably has 2.4. Haiti, of course, is a lot bigger, but all the other countries have less than 1 million people.
Yes.
That is not economically
They are
viable.
mini states,
They are
micro
many states.
states.
Those are not economically viable on their own. And countries that have many more people than us, Greece, France, Italy, they realize that it's so much better if we come together, because then there's so many more benefits that can be had by working together. And I think it's time for us to consider that our economies to work better, it's better if we do this together. And let us look at the economic benefits of doing that together in a single economic space. That, I think, is the real conversation that we need to have now. The politics will come after, because once people start to benefit from this, and let me say as well, we also need to have the ability for people to move freely, because when you have free trade, not everywhere is going to benefit at the same time.
Yes, of course.
And people need to move. So, if, for example, if I'm in St. Vincent and I want to get into manufacturing, that manufacturing is likely going to be taking place in Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, or Jamaica. I should be able to move there. If I'm a Trini and I like tourism, I should be able to move to St. Vincent or Barbados, where the tourism markets are likely to be much more expansive,
buoyant,
and buoyant and efficient. And when you have that, it means that you open up so many more opportunities for your people, because now they are not limited to the opportunities within their own domestic space. You have opened that up entirely. So when you're an American, if I'm living in Arizona and I want to become an actor, I just jump on a bus and I take a bus to LA and or to New York. But if, for example, I'm living in Los Angeles and I want to get into showing people the Grand Canyon, because I like that type of tourism, well, then I move to Arizona quite easily. And so that's the type of thing that we need to consider. And when, for example, I sell my property in LA and I want to move to Arizona, I have that currency, which then I can still use in Arizona to purchase and get my life going again.
Yeah.
And that's the ease of movement. Everything has to go with it. I can also take my health care with me, my health insurance. I can transfer that easily. So I guess, Dr. Wari, when we were speaking earlier about the ferry is a little component of it. For that to work really well, there are a lot of other things that have to go into this. So, for example, if I'm moving from Trinidad to Barbados and I have my pension pot here, I should be able to move with that quite easily and not have to give up that, as it were. I should be able to get health insurance as well quite easily, move with my insurance, move with my assets with a similar currency so I can establish a new abode in a new territory, as it were. And so much easier if we had a single market and economy to do that in.
Is the thinking in the region too small? And I might even go further and ask you the question. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just thinking aloud, really. Is the thinking in the region too backward?
Yeah, yes, I would have to agree with that. We are not visionary enough. And perhaps there are some leaders who are thinking we need to come together because we're going to just be stagnant if we don't. But you know what is lacking, Dr. Tawari, is the ability to, yes, not only say it, but to do it. We don't know how to do. We don't know how to implement. And implementation is not simply saying, okay, I want to get this done. It's about communicating. It's about bringing people along with you. So I can give you an idea today, but can I now maintain your support for the next 5 years when this is going to be implemented? That is what I think we are really lacking. But then again, that comes back in some ways to our political arrangement, I guess, because we are short term when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you led into the question, which is that, is it that our political party system, and I'm not only thinking about Trinidad and Tobago, but the entire region, all the countries, is it that our political party system has become too partisan and too sectarian, that it prevents us from doing those things that are truly national or regional, and that can benefit our people the most? I mean, is there something wrong?
I think so. For me, the number one thing that we need to do within our societies now are to take a look as to where we are.
Yeah.
So we came out of that colonial period of independence where we have more or less adopted the same constitution that came out of a colonial time. I think we more or less adopted a Canadian constitution, which in itself was adopted from perhaps the British. But we have now enough history to say, what do we need as a people in the region? What do we need as Trinidad and Tobagonians? What is that sort of social contract that we need? I think the time has come for us to have that discussion and then determine what type of constitutional reform is required so to help us have this big visionary thinking to get away from the siloed thinking and partisanship that moves us in the same direction. I think the form of governance that we have now needs to change to allow us to get over the hurdles that we are currently faced with. That really is an inhibitor to the type of progress that we need based on where we are now currently.
All right, we're going to come back and discuss some of this. We're going to take a break so our sponsors can sell their goods and their wares and talk to the population about what they do, what they make, and the services that they provide. This is Freedom Monday, and I'm Bo Tiwari. My guest is Dr. Justin Ram, economist.
Looking for the best in educational supplies? Then come on down to Charon's Bookstore, the trusted name in everything back to school, from uniforms, textbooks, school accessories, stationery, and much more. Our dedicated team is committed in providing the highest quality in customer service. Visit us at number 53 Eastern Main Road, Tunapuna, Trin City Mall, Trin City, number 24 Eastern Main Road, San Juan, and number 10 Diego Martin, 4 Roads, Diego Martin. Call us at 235-5811.
Are you ready to own your own home? But worried about time, money, and construction? We handle it all. With Docs, you can sleep in your dream. Make a down payment of $100K or $150K and we'll build a 2 or 3 bedroom home on your unused land. A home is an investment into your future, so let's help you invest wise, invest well. Payment plans available. We're only a call away.
Val Park Chinese Restaurant. Experience the flavors of authentic Chinese cuisine for a romantic night out or a family dinner. Our newly renovated cozy atmosphere and professional friendly service makes dining with us an unforgettable experience. We have a well-equipped conference room that caters for meetings and corporate events for up to 50 persons. Safe and secure parking. Val Park Chinese Restaurant. Open every day including Sundays and holidays. Book your table today. Give us a call 645-5474 662-4540.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Super quality supermarket. Best quality and great prices. Get your fresh fruits, vegetables and meats. It's a one-stop shop for the most affordable groceries, baby items, kitchen supplies, bathroom accessories, car care supplies, pet food, toys and lots more, all at Super Quality Supermarket. Wide aisles, fully air-conditioned and secured parking. 3 locations nationwide: Hoover Car Park, Hoover, 98 Endeavour Road, Chagones, and 47 Tissue Drive, Trin City. Super Quality Supermarket.
Welcome back. While we were off the air, somebody sent a question that had to do with foreign exchange. And although we moved off of that topic, I'm going to use it as a means of getting back into the conversation and kind of opening up the discussion a little bit as we come to the end. The question that the person asked is really, are the banks rationing foreign exchange to most people because they are using the foreign exchange preferentially for some of their favored customers? So I'm going to put the question to Justin, and he will get a chance to talk about that, and then we'll move into other things, because we had started moving into the bigger picture issues.
Well, yes, of course, the banks are rationing. We were speaking about this earlier in terms of there are large customers of banks. Banks are here to make money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Large customers, there would be more profit to be made from a large customer, and so they want to maintain that relationship. There is a hierarchy of relationships, of course, in any commercial relationship, as it were. In banks, it's no different. And so they would, where there's a situation where they don't have enough foreign exchange given to them based on what is supplied via the central bank, then they would start to ration based on that. And of course, the larger, those who demand more will perhaps get more, and those who are not as frequent demanders of foreign exchange will find that it becomes more difficult. But I think it comes back to this fundamental point, Dr. Tawari, that foreign exchange in a small open economy, for me, has to be a right. Because currently, based on international markets, as an individual, I think that I can actually now go out there and purchase what I need even more efficiently than a large importer that can. So for example, if I go to the supermarket here, and I'm just visiting for these last few days, there's something in the supermarket that I'm accustomed buying that I can't find here. And why is that? If I was able to then go out and simply import that as an individual and bring that in, I can do that much more efficiently now because of the online marketplaces like Amazon and so, which makes it very easy for me. And so one of the things I also want to say is that if you stop rationing this foreign exchange and make it a bit freer, there's actually a lot more employment that will be created. There's a lot of individuals who can now become couriers who will start distributing goods based on what individuals have imported for their own goods. There's probably going to be some fallout with respect to large importers and distributors, but they will naturally have to adjust to the market sentiments and do what they can do best and compete. What we have is a limitation of competition.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and it really has to do with allowing the free market system to work. But I mean, there are other considerations too. I mean, we were talking, for instance, of dollarization in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean, and the fact that some countries have done it. I mean, I was quite surprised many years ago when I went to Panama, and I had a meeting with the inspector of banks there, because they don't have a central bank. First of all, I learned that they had no central bank, and secondly, when I talked to him, I mean, basically, foreign exchange just flows in and out. I mean, and there is no, and they made the economy work. And a few days ago, I was reading about successful economies, and the economies that were mentioned, Panama was one of them. Being a latecomer to the process, countries like Singapore had done well, Finland had done well, etc. But certainly Panama had been mentioned as one of the most successful economies. So, but there's the other factor. Even while all of these things are going on, you have, for instance, the BRICS countries wanting to have their own currency and to basically stave off the what you might can say the monopolistic drive of the US dollar, right? Secondly, you have a lot of countries, starting with the BRICS, but not limited to them, talking about trading in your own currency so that you do trade between countries using the currency of each country. Okay? And you also have the other consideration, which has become, I mean, a kind of predominant consideration after the COVID experience, in which countries are trying to be as sustainable as possible, which is to say to produce as much of what they can on their own, to work with neighboring countries in their production, their regional production system, etc. So all the time experience is causing us to think. And as we think, we find different solutions that may not always be harmonious with the kind of thinking we had for the solutions we had before. And I think for a person like me, that is what I find missing in our part of the world. We get stuck in the same conversation. The political system is absolutely mind-boggling in its backwardness. The party system is a system of limitations that is averse to talent. And you have a situation in which those who occupy political office really hold political office, whether they are in government or in opposition, for as long as possible. And in the process, they keep back the thinking, they keep back the new ideas, they keep back the democratic engagement of thought. And at the end of the day, the loss is development itself, because you do not make the right decision. As you say, we already have a problem implementing anything. So the situation is compounded. Now, I know I've said a lot there because my mind just kind of raced as we were talking about that. But I give you the last word here now as we come to the end, and share your thoughts with us and with the audience.
Well, first of all, I think we need governance reform. We need to have a big conversation about that, what is required. You spoke about the political party and the limitations of that. And I think, yes, think about how candidates are chosen, and then all of us, the rest of the population, must then vote on these candidates. The two parties that are in most countries now choose candidates for you to vote on. That's very quite undemocratic.
Yes.
And that's sort of a primary system, as it's called in the US.
Yes.
I'm not sure what we call it here, but that needs to be opened up more. So at that first stage, because we have this gate, as it were, because then we are simply told, these are the people who you must vote for. But we don't have any say in how those people become selected in the first place. And that, for me, is a big challenge that we have in our current democracies, how we break open that political barrier, as it were, as to how candidates are chosen. I think that's the first thing that we need to start looking at. Open that up. And so I would say, open up the primary process, as it were, as to which candidates then make it to the general election. So in that way, we get a better chance of getting the best type and competent of candidates, and those who we think are ready for all of us. So first, I'd say that. So governance reform, I think we need a new social contract. That's really important, and from that, a new constitution, which leads to this opening up of how candidates are chosen. On economic policy, I think we need to think big. We need to go to a regional perspective and think about one single market and economy that allows for the free movement of people, goods, and capital. That needs to move very, very easily across this region, because the larger an economy is, then you have economies of scale, and everyone will then benefit from that. Good initiatives in terms of the ferry service, yes, but there are a lot more things that need to go into place for that to work. And I think for that to work really well, instead of just trying to tinker with regulations, let's go full bang. Let's have a single market and economy. Let's really open this up. And let's see, and I think investment will flow not only internally, but also externally as well.
Don't we, I mean, can we take that further and say that in the hemisphere, that's to say the whole Western hemisphere from Tierra del Fuego all the way up to Alaska, we really need to have a kind of freedom of not just thought, but movement of goods, movement of people, movement of investment, etc., across the hemisphere. I mean, already we have so many major immigration problems in the Caribbean, in the hemisphere.
Yes.
We had the second largest migration from a single country from Venezuela recently because of the problems there. That still is ongoing. I mean, don't we really need to rethink this business of hemispheric management, just as they rethought what happened in Europe?
Of course, and the movement is happening unofficially. We see it happening all the time. It's impacting domestic politics even in the US, where they're saying, oh, we have a crisis at the border. The real crisis that you have is that we have a hemisphere that is not benefiting fully from the trade that is being done currently. And so because people are experiencing negative situations in their own country, they are trying to move to where they have more potential, namely the US and other North American countries.
Yes.
We need to make this a little bit more official. Either we say, okay, we need more investment in the southern countries to give people more opportunities there, or let's just be factual.
Yeah, well, maybe you need both.
Yes.
I want to thank you for staying with us and for listening and for viewing. My name is Bo Tiwari. This is Freedom Monday. I'm here every Monday at 10 a.m. on Synergy and all the other channels where you were able to see us this morning. Please join us again this Monday. We thank my guest, Dr. Justin Ram, for being with us and being such an eloquent discussant on this morning's program. All the best.
Thank you, Bo.
To you.
Thank you.